Now, those last three examples we just looked at required us to multiply one of the equations by some number. In some cases, you may need to multiply both equations by some number in order for something to eliminate. So that's what we're going to look at next. So I'm going to go ahead and skip this example, and we're going to go ahead and look at number 17. Let's take a look at number 17. Now, right now, if I add those two equations, nothing's going to eliminate. If I subtract those two equations, I'm still not going to get anything to eliminate. So what I'm going to have to do is figure out some way to get either these x values or the numbers in front of the x to match up, or the numbers in front of the y's to match up. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the first equation, and I'm going to multiply it with a 3. But I'm also going to take the second equation and multiply it by a 4. Now, why the heck did I choose 3 for the first equation and 4 for the second equation? Can anybody see it? Why did I choose those two numbers? What is that?
Switch.
They switched. What am I going to end up when I multiply 3 times the 4x? 12. What do I get when I multiply 4 times the 3x? 12. They're going to match up, right? Which is the whole idea here, to get them to match up. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to take the first equation, multiply it by 3. So here we go. 3 times 4x is 12x. 3 times 5y is 15y. And 3 times 70 is 210. Let's take the bottom equation and multiply it with a 4. So 4 times 3x is x. 4 times a negative 2y is a negative 8y. And 4 times 18. What's 4 times 18? 72. So again, notice the whole idea there was to get those numbers in front of the x's to match up. Now I got to decide what's going to eliminate those x's, adding the 2 or subtracting. What would get rid of the x? Adding or subtracting? Subtraction. It has to be subtraction. 12x plus 12x would give me a 24x. That's not what I want. I don't want any x's. So we're going to subtract everything. 12x minus 12x, of course, is 0. 15y minus a negative 8y. Be real careful. Put that in your calculator. What's 15y minus a negative 8y? 23y. And 210 minus 72 is? 210 minus 72?
138.
138. Is that right? 138. Let's solve for the y. Let's divide by 23. So 138 divided by 23 is going to leave us with a what? 6. Positive 6. So we're halfway done. We know what the y is. It's 6. Let's come over here and figure out what x is. Let's go ahead and take that 6 and plug it into one of the equations. I'm going to use the second equation. First thing I'm going to do is multiply. Negative 2 times 6 is a negative 12. Now I'm going to add 12 and 18. 12, 18 plus 12 is going to give us a 30. And finally divide that by 3. 30 divided by 3 is 10. So now I've got both numbers. I just need to write it as an ordered pair. And that ordered pair is going to be a 10, 6. There's my solution. That is my ordered pair, 10, 6. All right, let's do one more here, number 18. Number 18. Again, right now as it stands, if I add or subtract, nothing's going to eliminate. So I want to try and figure out some way to get either the x values to match up or the y values.
Mr. Garcia, how will we know, like on the test, if you ever have one of these, how will we know which ones to add, subtract, and multiply?
Well, again, it's whatever's going to eliminate one of the variables. Notice over here on number 17, if I would have added those two, that's not going to eliminate it. I would have ended up with 24x's. That's not going to help me out. So it has to be subtraction. So you'll know whether to add or subtract based on, do you get 0x's or do you get 0 y's.
Okay.
We want no more x's and we want no more y's.
And what about the starting point, like to begin with, to get the new equation?
Uh-huh.
How do we know?
Very good question. How do you know? Well, let's take this number 18, for example. Let's say I want to get rid of these x's right here. The only way that's going to happen is if these two numbers are exactly the same. So we got to figure out what can I do so that these numbers in front of the x's are exactly the same. Well, I'm seeing a 12 right now, and I'm also seeing an 8. So I've got to figure out what can I multiply by so that these two numbers are exactly the same. I'm thinking 24. I can get a 24 out of this, and I can also get a 24 out of this one here, right? Here's what I'm talking about. If I multiply the first equation by a 2, 2 times 12 is going to give me a 24. But I also want a 24 down here on the second equation. 2 times 8 is not going to give me a 24. What do I need to multiply to get that 24? 3. So this is how I determine what numbers to use. It's whatever gives us the same number in front of the x. Now that's not the only option. There's a couple of other options we could have used. Well, it doesn't have to be 24. Matter of fact, it didn't even have to be the x. I could have also tried to get rid of the y's. So there's many options. All right, let's go ahead and multiply the top equation by 2. 2 times 12x is 24x. 2 times a negative 7y is a negative 14y. And 2 times 59. What's 2 times 59? 118. So there's the first equation. Second equation, we're going to multiply it with a 3. So 3 times 8x is 24x. 3 times 11y is a negative, actually it's a positive 33y. And 3 times a negative 39, put that in your calculator, 3 times a negative 117. Alright, so obviously we got a 24 in front of the x. Now we got to decide, are we going to add them or are we going to subtract them? Olivia, what do you think? Add or subtract those two equations? What's going to get rid of these x's here? Adding them or subtracting them? 24 plus 24 is going to give me a 0, or 24 minus 24 is going to give me minus. There you go. We're going to subtract the two equations. It's got to be subtraction. So when you have 24x's and you take away 24x's, you get a 0. Subtract everything else though. Negative 14y minus 33y is a negative what? 47. 118 minus a negative 117 is what? 118 minus negative 117. Put in your calculator. 235. Now we're going to divide by negative 47. So 235 divided by negative 47 is going to give us a negative 5. So we got half of our answer. We're going to take that negative 5 and we're going to go back and substitute it in for one of these equations. I guess I'll use the second equation. So let's go ahead and multiply. 11 times a negative 5 is a negative 55. Add 55 to both sides. Negative 39 plus 55 is, what is that? 16. We're almost there. Divide that 16 by 8. 16 divided by 8 is a 2. Of course, we're going to write it as an ordered pair, and that ordered pair is going to be a 2, -5. So our solution in number 18 would be the ordered pair 2, -5. All right, we're going to go ahead and stop right there.